Beloved chosen one, you do not imagine this shaking. You are not becoming unstable. You are being moved. The ground beneath your feet feels unfamiliar because God is loosening your attachment to places, people, and patterns that were only meant to hold you for a season, not for a lifetime. What once felt natural now feels heavy. What once comforted you now drains you. What once gave you identity now feels too small for your soul. This is not failure. This is divine displacement. God is not punishing you by disturbing your peace. He is protecting your purpose by refusing to let you settle where you no longer belong. You have tried to make sense of this transition with logic. But some movements of God cannot be explained by logic because they begin in the spirit before they appear in the visible world. That is why you feel the shift before you can name it. Heaven has already announced a change over your life, and your spirit is responding before your mind fully understands. There is a holy restlessness rising in you, and it is not there to torment you. It is there to awaken you. The version of you that could remain asleep in familiar places is fading. The version of you that must walk in obedience is being called forward. There are moments when God moves you inwardly before He moves you outwardly. First, He breaks your agreement with comfort. Then He breaks your dependence on what is predictable. Then He exposes the silent grief you have carried from staying too long in places that no longer feed your calling. You thought you were enduring. You thought you were being patient. But deep inside, your soul knew something sacred had already ended. That is why your spirit has felt crowded. That is why your prayers have grown more intense. That is why your heart has been whispering that you cannot remain as you were. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. That word is not decoration, it is direction. If God has plans for your future, then He will disrupt whatever tries to chain you to a past that cannot carry your destiny. Some doors must feel uncomfortable before you stop trying to reopen them. Some rooms must lose their warmth before you find the courage to leave them. God knows exactly where your soul is meant to flourish. And because He loves you, He will not allow false peace to keep you in the wrong place forever. So do not fear this discomfort. It is evidence that movement has begun. The separation is starting in your spirit because your next place must first be recognized within you before it is entered around you. Like this message. Share it with the one who feels the same shaking. Subscribe to stay under this flow, and comment 27 if you know God is moving your soul toward its ordained place. What begins as inner displacement soon becomes visible loss. This is the part many do not speak about with honesty, the pain of separation and pruning. When God moves you toward the place ordained for your soul, He does not simply add new blessings on top of old attachments. He cuts, clears, and confronts. He removes what has wrapped itself around your identity so tightly that you began to mistake it for destiny. And when that removal begins, it can feel like betrayal, emptiness, or silence. But what feels cruel in the moment is often mercy in disguise. You notice that certain conversations no longer nourish you. Certain relationships grow strained without warning. Doors you expected to remain open begin to close with unsettling finality. Even environments where you once felt seen begin to reject the new weight of God's presence on your life. This is painful because your heart still remembers what these places and people once meant to you. You are not emotionless. You do not walk away untouched. You feel the tearing because something real is being separated. Yet not everything real is permanent, and not everything familiar is ordained to continue. Pruning is holy, but it is rarely comfortable. You may ask why God allows the loneliness, why He permits the misunderstanding, why He lets you stand in the ache of transition without immediate explanation. The answer is that some things cannot be carried into your next season, not because they were always evil, but because they have become too small, too restrictive, or too rooted in an older version of you. God is not merely removing sin. He is removing limitation. He is cutting away the alliances, habits, and emotional shelters that would choke the fruit He intends to grow through your obedience. Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 2, "Every branch in me that does bear fruit He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful." That word reveals the mystery of your sorrow. You are not being cut off because you are worthless. You are being pruned because you are fruitful. The hand of God does not prune dead branches to prepare them for purpose. He prunes living branches that carry potential for greater harvest. This is why the process feels so sharp. Something alive is being touched. Something meaningful is being trimmed. Something you thought you needed is being taken so that something eternal can emerge with greater strength. So when the distance grows, when the room turns quiet, when support fades and clarity seems delayed, do not interpret the pruning as abandonment. Heaven is making space around your soul. God is thinning what is crowded so your calling can breathe. The loss is painful, but it is not pointless. What remains after this cutting will be cleaner, holier, and far more aligned with the place where your spirit was always meant to dwell. By now, the movement is no longer only internal, and it is no longer only painful. Signs begin to appear. They do not always come as thunder or spectacle. Often they come as repetition, interruption, and strange alignment. You begin to notice that what used to hold you cannot hold you the same way anymore. Yet what is ahead keeps sending quiet confirmation. A message arrives at the right hour. A delay protects you from a path that looked promising, but carried hidden emptiness. A burden grows heavier whenever you try to force what God is ending, while a deep strength rises when you take even one small step toward what He is opening. This is how divine repositioning often works. God trains your discernment through patterns. You start seeing that certain endings were not accidents. That missed opportunity was not the destruction of your future. That closed door was not heaven ignoring your cries. It was redirection. The confusion did not mean God had abandoned the map. It meant He was taking away your reliance on human timing so you could recognize His own. When your soul is being moved toward an ordained place, false options begin to lose their shine. You may still be tempted by them, but something in your spirit refuses to fully rest there. That refusal is a sign. Holy discomfort becomes a compass. Another sign is the sharpening of your spiritual senses. You hear with greater caution. You notice what drains your peace. You become less impressed by appearances and more sensitive to substance. What once seemed harmless now feels heavy. What once seemed too small to matter now carries unusual weight. This is not you becoming fearful. This is you becoming alert. God is refining your discernment because the place prepared for your soul cannot be entered with dull vision. You are being taught to sense what is aligned and what is merely attractive, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 21. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." That is the promise unfolding around you now. Not every voice is meant to lead you, but the voice of God carries a distinct authority. It does not flatter your flesh while starving your spirit. It leads with peace, conviction, and a strange steadiness that remains even when the road is unfamiliar. The signs around you are not random fragments. They are mercies. They are guideposts. They are evidence that God is not merely calling you out of one place, He is carefully escorting you into another. Comment "Lead me, Lord" below, as a public act of agreement that you are ready to follow where God points. And if this word is strengthening your walk, donate to help carry this message to other souls standing at the same turning point. And this is where the testing deepens, because the signs do not remove the need for obedience. They only reveal the direction. You still have to move. You still have to trust when the road ahead does not explain itself in full. This is the edge of uncertainty, the place where many hesitate, not because God has failed to speak, but because He has not provided every detail their fear demands. Yet your calling was never designed to be walked out by perfect explanation. It is walked out by surrender. God does not owe your comfort an advanced blueprint before He asks for your obedience. This is the hard and holy place where your faith stops being poetic and becomes costly. You must release the need to control outcomes. You must let go of the illusion that safety is found in delay. You must stop treating hesitation as wisdom when, in truth, it is often fear wearing a respectable face. The soul that is being led to an ordained place cannot remain forever at the border asking for guarantees. There comes a moment when the next act of faith is not to understand more, but to obey more. You have gathered the signs. You have felt the stirring. You have watched old things fall away. Now heaven is asking whether you will move when movement requires courage. Obedience at this stage may look quiet from the outside, but it is thunderous in the spirit. It may be a decision no one applauds at first. It may be a separation others misread. It may be a refusal to return to what once held you. It may be the choice to walk forward with trembling hands and a steady heart. Do not despise that trembling. Courage is not the absence of shaking. Courage is when your spirit bows to God while your flesh still feels the weight of the unknown. The miracle is not that you feel nothing. The miracle is that you move anyway. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. For we live by faith, not by sight. That word cuts through the fog with holy precision. If you are called to live by faith, then sight cannot be your master. Clarity is a gift, but it is not your God. Visible proof is useful, but it is not the engine of your obedience. God often withholds the full picture because He is building something stronger than confidence in circumstances. He is building trust in Him. Your next place is not reached by human certainty. It is reached by spiritual agreement. So when the path feels narrow, when the future feels larger than your current strength, when your mind tries to drag you back into the familiar, remember what has already been established in your spirit. God did not bring you this far to leave you stranded at the threshold. The one who disrupted your comfort, who allowed the pruning, who sent the signs, is the same one now calling your feet forward. And when you obey at the edge of uncertainty, you do more than change direction. You prove that your soul trusts the hand that is leading it. And now you arrive at the threshold where everything begins to gather into meaning. The inner shaking, the painful pruning, the unmistakable signs, and the costly obedience were never separate stories. They were one divine movement. God was leading you, step by step, to the place ordained for your soul. This place is not merely a location on a map. It is a realm of alignment. It is where your spirit no longer has to shrink to survive. It is where your obedience meets divine timing. It is where what God placed in you finds the atmosphere prepared to sustain it. You may have imagined arrival as instant ease, but often it comes first as recognition. Something in your spirit knows it before your circumstances fully settle. You sense a holy fit. You sense that the warfare is different here because the assignment is clearer. You sense that your gifts are no longer buried under constant confusion. What once felt blocked begins to breathe. What once felt scattered begins to gather. What once felt delayed begins to move with unusual precision. This is what happens when divine placement finally meets willing surrender. Do not misunderstand this moment. Arrival does not mean you will never face resistance again. It means resistance no longer has the power to define you. The ordained place is not a life without battle, but it is a life where the battle cannot cancel the call. You are no longer wrestling to become who God said you are. You are standing in it. There is a difference between surviving in the wrong field and flourishing in the right one, in the wrong place. Even small victories leave you empty. In the ordained place, even stretching seasons carry peace because your soul knows it is where God has planted it. According to what is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 1, verse 3, that person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. This is not only poetry, it is prophecy over alignment. God does not bring you into your ordained place to watch you dry up there. He plants with intention. He positions with wisdom. He establishes with care. When He moves you, He also sustains you. The stream is already near the place He has chosen. The nourishment is already assigned. The fruit is already written into the season. You did not come this far to remain rootless. You were moved so you could finally be planted. So lift your head. Chosen one. What felt like loss was making room. What felt like delay was preserving timing. What felt like uncertainty was training trust. And now your soul stands where heaven always intended it to stand, closer to purpose, steadier in identity, and stronger in spirit than before. Comment 56 below as your sign that you are ready to remain planted where God has ordained your soul to flourish. If this message has rested on your spirit like morning light on a long dark field, you may choose to leave a like placing a small lamp in the window to say, "Yes, this reached me." You may share it the way one traveler passes warm fire to another on a cold road. So no weary soul has to walk in silence. You may comment below as if laying one living stone on this altar of faith, a quiet witness that your heart heard heaven speak. And if you want to remain close to this stream whenever fresh waters begin to move, you may subscribe, not as duty but as staying near the well where your spirit has often been refreshed. If this channel has become a vessel that helps carry light, clarity, and strength to you, you may also donate, like pouring oil into a lamp so it can keep burning for those still searching in the night.